It'd sure be nice that if inside the Atlanta Braves stocking tomorrow morning was a left fielder, a starting pitcher, a relief pitcher, and maybe even a shortstop. Let's talk about it. Yes, welcome on in to Braves Today for Tuesday, December 24th. Your source of news, notes, and updates on your Atlanta Braves. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby. You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Crosby Baseball. You can follow the show on Twitter, Braves_today. We have a Facebook page and Instagram as well. And you can find all of my written work, bravestoday.com. That's the Braves Today Substack, as this is both a podcast and a newsletter. And happy Christmas Eve to each of you. Everybody all over Braves country is going to be opening presents tomorrow morning, hoping that they got everything off of their Christmas list. And the Atlanta Braves Christmas list, and a lot of the fans, what we want to see the Braves get this offseason is a left fielder, a starting pitcher, a relief pitcher, and maybe a shortstop. And there's been a lot of signings so far this winter. A surprising amount of movement compared to where it feels like we were at this time last year. Let's look at these markets and identify if Atlanta were to have these presents under the tree, who would be the most likely or best fits for the Braves to open on Christmas morning. And I'm going to start in left field because it is easy to see a world where the Braves are content to stand pat as of right now in the rotation. Okay? Because right now, from where we sit, your rotation candidates, Chris Sale, Ronaldo Lopez, Spencer Schwellenbach, Ian Anderson, Grant Holmes, AJ Smith-Shawver, Bryce Elder, Alan Winans, Dylan Dodd, Davis Daniel, Connor Gillespie. There's 11 names of guys that can take starts for you in 2025. Guys who have all, I think maybe Gillespie, no, including Gillespie, who have all appeared in the major leagues and have started games. That doesn't include guys like Drew Hackenberg, Lucas Braun, prospects who could make the 40-man roster and make starts for you next season. You could see a world where the Braves stood pat in the starting rotation and said, we're banking on health and upside and development on some of these guys, right? But right now, your outfield is where the real concern comes in because your starters in the corners until Ronald Acuna Jr. is back, Jared Kelenic, probably in left, and Brian De La Cruz in right. So when you're looking at the free agency market as of now, a lot of the big names that we were hoping to see come, not necessarily big names, but the names we're hoping to come to see to Atlanta, Michael Conforto, Max Kepler, some of those guys like that are off the board. Conforto went to the Dodgers on December 10th. You saw Kepler go over the weekend to the Phillies. Tyler O'Neill also signed on the 10th. He went to Boston. A lot of your options here. Mike Tauchman went to the White Sox on December 11th. A lot of your options to be a one-year guy in the outfield are off the board. And the more that I've dug into it, the more that I think Jurickson Profar might actually be your best option in the outfield. Now, the caveat here is it's probably going to take a multi-year deal. You're probably not signing Profar and continuing with your offseason and staying under the CBT. That's not a certainty. You could absolutely do it. I don't think the deal would be more than about $15 million AAV, probably max at this point. Maybe even a little bit under on a 3-year deal, 3 years, 45. So you could still, if you have 22, 23 million before the first CBT, you could sign Profar and then pretty much, other than fringe deals and ads in spring training, call it an offseason and argue that you've at least added options at just about every one of your needs. And some of my hangups with Jurickson Profar is he was significantly better in 2024 than he had been pretty much in any season of his career from a conventional statistics standpoint. He's a career 245 hitter across 11 seasons in the majors with 8.4 WAR. But in 2024, he hit 280 with 3.6 WAR playing left field for the Padres and a little tiny bit of first base. I don't really know what that was about. He had 18 innings and 2 starts at first base, which was wild to me. But, close to half of his career WAR and 35 additional points over his career average in 2024. But when you dig into the numbers on Jurickson Profar, it's easy to see how a lot of this is sustainable, right? The big difference for Jurickson Profar in 2024 was hitting for power. He had 24 home runs. He added 29 doubles to that. And his previous high for home runs was 2018 and 2019, where he hit 20 in both seasons. That's back when he was an infielder, right? The majority of his starts for Texas in 2018 were at shortstop. He played a lot of second base for Oakland, so a little bit of outfield as well. But the thing with Jurickson Profar's power production getting significantly better in 2024, though, is you can see things that he went into the year trying to make a conscious effort to hit the ball harder, to put the ball in the air more, and get more power production. And that's not something that you can typically point. When you see those outlier years like that, you can't always point to a specific thing. But a lot of the articles coming out about Jurickson Profar's year, he spent a lot of his offseason with the hitting coach for Fernando Tatis Jr., who is his dad, Fernando Tatis Sr. When you watch him in 23 versus 24, you can see he changed his handset a little bit in the stance. We've talked before about some of these Braves hitters and what moving their hands has done for their offense, so don't discount the small change like that. He also went from a toe tap to more of a leg kick, so a timing mechanism, but also helping with the kinetic chain and getting, it's a couple different things that were all conscious decisions to try and hit for more power. And it worked. Again, career high in home runs with 24. His home run rate, 3.6%, was the second highest of his career for mostly full seasons. He had a 6% rate in 2012, but he literally had 17 plate appearances. It doesn't count. And he did, he actually improved on his walk rates and things from the previous year. So he got better despite trying to hit for more power, which usually leads to issues with contact. Okay. 2023, and caveat here is some of this in StatCast is from Colorado, and Colorado does weird things with breaking pitches. It's hard to have a good batter's eye in Colorado. He went from a 25.1% chase percentage, which is 74th percentile, in 24, 90th percentile at 21.9%. His whiff rate went down to 17%, 90th percentile. His strikeout rate, 15.1%, 88th percentile. It was at 17 and change the year before. His walk rate went up from 9.6% to 11.4%. He deliberately tried to hit for more power, but he did not sacrifice any of the plate discipline, any of the swing decisions. And while Jurickson Profar's defense is not amazing, and his speed is not anything to write home about, he would not be improving Atlanta's team speed were he to sign. But what Jurickson Profar is right now is a guy that can hit for a high average, can get you more power production than you were wanting, can draw plenty of walks, again, over 10% last year, doesn't strike out a lot. His on-base percentage was .380 last year. A lot of the projections, even with him taking a small step back, have him at 355 or so for on base. And he's a switch hitter that doesn't have a significant disadvantage with either-handedness. Last year, 137 WRC plus against righties, 147 against lefties. So you can play him every single day. Now again, Jurickson Profar probably takes a multi-year commitment. It's probably the last major free agent deal of his career. You're probably paying him for 3 years. You're probably paying him $15 million a year or something like that. So a $45 million deal for 3 years. You've done these deals for outfielders before. This is similar, more money, but similar to the 3-year commitment or whatever it was you gave Eddie Rosario. Like, you've done these kind of deals for outfielders before. But Jurickson Profar would give you the ability to platoon Kelenic and Brian De La Cruz to start the year. And then when Ronald Acuna Jr. is back, assuming he plays every day, and you can take your time in getting him back because you'll have plenty of outfield options, Brian De La Cruz or Jared Kelenic can get option to AAA Gwinnett to get everyday at-bats. Kelenic has 1 option left. De La Cruz has 2 options left. So either guy can get sent down. You don't have to worry about losing one of them or carrying 5 major league outfielders because that's a little bit absurd. Now, I would say you probably end up keeping Eli White on your bench as a defensive replacement because Brian De La Cruz is a bad defender. Jurickson Profar is just below average, and Eli White has no options. But the point is, you have the runway here to add Profar, stay under the CBT if you're not making any other significant moves. And what's really cool is the Braves, this should not decide things for you, but it's a cool thing to have. Jurickson Profar is from Curacao. Not a ton of players from Curacao have played in the majors, but like close to a third of all players from Curacao who've played in the majors have played for the Braves. Ozzie Albies obviously is here now from Curacao. Andrew Jones was the one that really blazed the trail. This is the year he gets in the Hall of Fame, by the way. We're manifesting this, everybody. That's on the Hall of Fame's New Year's resolutions list, is vote Andrew Jones into the Hall of Fame. And so adding another player from Curacao, one, is just really cool, but it feels like he should be able to fit into the clubhouse well because Marcelo Ozuna is the veteran leader of those Latin guys. Profar is very close, reportedly, with Ozzie Albies. They are friends. So he's going to fit into the clubhouse really well already. So rather than looking at some of these left fielders and saying, yeah, we're going to sign an Alex Verdugo or a Mark Canha or an Austin Hayes, I say, go get Jurickson Profar. You can do it and still have $7 or $8 million under the CBT threshold for in the season to make adds at the deadline. Now, if you want to go over the CBT in the offseason, which I'm fine with, there's a couple options at starting pitcher and relief pitcher, and we'll get to that next, right here on Braves Today. Welcome back to Braves Today. Lindsay Crosby talking about the Atlanta Braves Christmas list and who's probably, if they're going to check these off this winter, if they're going to get these gifts for Christmas, who it probably should be or who it's most likely to be with all of the free agent signings. And another position where we've seen a lot of the postseason starter caliber guys come off the board has been starting pitcher. Some of these guys Atlanta was never in on. Blake Snell, they were never going to be in on Blake Snell. Max Fried obviously signed that 8-year deal. They weren't going to go 8 years on any pitcher. Again, under Alex Anthopoulos, only one pitcher has gotten a deal for more than 3 years, and that was Spencer Strider, and that was 6, and he'll still be only 30 years old, I think, or 29 when the deal ends. But there is a guy out there that is probably your only real bet on a free agent signing who can thread the needle of he's not saddled with a qualifying offer like a Corbin Burns or a Nick Pivetta, but he may not also require a long commitment because he probably wants another bite at the apple to try to secure a multi-year deal, and that's Jack Flaherty. We've seen him traded twice in his career already. The last 2 seasons, He's been moved at the deadline. 2023 going from the Cardinals to the Orioles. 2024 going from Detroit to the Dodgers, where he won a World Series. I almost said Super Bowl for some reason. He won a World Series with them last year. And Flaherty last year, 13-7 with a 3.17 ERA in 28 starts and 162 innings. Second highest innings total of his career. In the postseason, he did make an additional 5 starts, picked up an extra 22 innings in the postseason. So you add that in, 184 innings, easily the second highest innings total of his career behind 2019. Now, I personally think that in both 23 and 24, he was running out of gas towards the end of the year because of the workload jump. In 2022, he threw 36 innings before the injury. In 2023, 144 and a third. And that time in Baltimore, 34 and 2/3 innings was not great. 6.75 ERA, 1-3 record. They moved him to the bullpen. He made 9 appearances and only 7 starts. Last year, he was not much better. He was over half a run better in Detroit than he was in LA. It was a 2.95 ERA in 18 Detroit starts and a 3.58 ERA in 10 LA starts. So over half a run worse. And the biggest thing is some of the peripherals got worse too. His strikeout rate, when he went from Detroit to LA, moved from 11.2 strikeouts per 9 to 9.9. And his walk rate went up from 1.6 to 3.1. Again, I think a lot of that was workload related. Again, he went from 36 innings in 22 to 144 and a third to 162 plus another 22 in the postseason. But that's now 2 consecutive years where he's made at least 27 starts. And it feels like you should be able, again, barring health, he was a little bit banged up at times last year. Reportedly, the Yankees deal at the deadline fell apart because they didn't like the medicals on Jack Flaherty. But he should be able to make 25, 27, 28 starts, pitch 160 to 170 innings for you. Again, assuming he's healthy, never given with any starting pitcher. And when you look at what Jack Flaherty does really well, he's got both a slider and a curveball. The duo combined gave him some of the best run value in baseball on breaking balls at plus 12, 98th percentile. The curve allowed a 164 average against on 22% usage. The slider allowed a 222 batting average against on 29% usage. Four-seam fastball was fine. 254 batting average. It did get knocked around a little bit from a home run perspective, but for the most part, Jack Flaherty, fastball, slider, curve, has a change he doesn't really use, has a sinker he doesn't really use. But a guy should be able to come in, should be able to give you plenty of innings. You could probably get him on a shorter term deal because I think he's going to want another bite at the apple. If you want to sign him to a multi-year deal, you probably can do that too. But he's an option for you as a starter. And then if you're looking at a reliever, I'm going to stick with the J theme. And I've got 2 names for you depending on whether or not you want to try to go back to the relief to starting well. Jeff Hoffman has been one of those proposed reliever to starter types this offseason. Reliever is a position that just has really been undertouched in the free agent market. So you may still be able to get values there. Of the relievers who have signed multi-year deals, most of them have some sort of mitigating factor outside of the normal reliever deal. Clay Holmes, 3-year deal with the Mets, but he's converting to starting. Yimi Garcia, 2-year deal with Toronto. I believe they re-signed him. Blake Trinan, 2-year deal with the Dodgers. They re-signed him. Most of the reliever deals you've seen, 1-year deals. Philly brought in Joe Ross and Jordan Romano. Texas brought in Jordan Webb, Homie Milner, Sean Armstrong, all 1-year deals. Boston brought in Aroldis Chapman on a 1-year deal. There's probably values to be had still in the relief market, unlike you've been able to find in the starting pitcher market or in the outfield market, because if the deals were there, AA probably would have already struck. So Jeff Hoffman, if you want a guy to convert to starting, with the understanding that some of, like over the last couple years, some of his underlying metrics have been among the best in baseball. There's a great article about this on MLB.com. The last 2 seasons, pitchers with at least 750 swings against them, he has the 14th best whiff rate at 34.9%. He has the 8th best chase rate at 34.3%. His strikeout rate at 33.5 is 6th best out of 344 pitchers, and his walk to strikeout ratio is 7th best among all relievers with at least 100 innings. Like, even if he doesn't work as a starter, he's still a very good reliever to have out of the pen. And if he gets $8 or $9 million or $10 million AAV, if he doesn't work as a starter, it's still a really good deal for a back-end reliever. And again, you have the possibility of needing a new closer after 2025. Raisel Iglesias is an unrestricted free agent. He may come back, he may not. So Jeff Hoffman could be a starter for you. And if that doesn't work out, you move him to the back of the bullpen and he's an option to be your closer in 26. I've, on this show before, have advocated for a José Leclerc, formerly of the Texas Rangers. He was their closer. He lost the job. You can bring him in. You have a year to work on his stuff, help him find some of that velo back so that you can make him into a closer again to have him there for 2026. And you can probably get him at a discount now because he's coming off of a down year. There's a couple options here. I think you can address any one of these positions and not go into CBT penalties and still have money left for the deadline to make trades and acquisitions. You can have $5 million put aside for that, right? Now, you probably have to go into the CBT if you address one of these and shortstop, but there is still an option out there that may be pretty attractive for Atlanta. We'll discuss that next, right here on Braves Today. Welcome back to Braves Today. Lindsay Crosby talking about Atlanta's Christmas list and who could be the guys that check each thing off the list that are under the tree for Braves fans this Christmas. And we've talked about starting pitcher, we've talked about the outfield, we've talked about relief pitcher, but I want to talk about shortstop because one thing that's been remarkably quiet all offseason, we've not heard a lot about Ha-Seung Kim, formerly of the San Diego Padres. A lot of the rumors were of him going to be going to the Giants. There was a lot of connections between Kim and the Giants. They obviously spent a lot of money on Willy Adames. And so Atlanta's in a really good position for a guy like Ha-Seung Kim because, one, you have a starter at shortstop already. You're not trying to fill the shortstop position, which I have become convinced is one of, if not the hardest position in baseball to fill. It feels every year there's one or two possibly highly paid guys and then a bunch of just kind of bums, right? This year, it was Willy Adames, Ha-Seung Kim, and then not a lot of note, right? Next year, the class, as of now, Bo Bichette, Trevor Story if he opts out, and then Jorge Mateo, Miguel Rojas, Orlando Arcia. Not a great shortstop class. Go to 2026. J.P. Crawford, and if Atlanta exercises the club option on Arcia, then he's the second available shortstop in 2026. 2027, it may be something like Jeremy Pena and Geraldo Perdomo if they don't re-sign with their existing teams. But even that, they're not locks to be like an automatic upgrade over who you might have at the position. I'm convinced shortstop's the hardest position in baseball to fill with an above average performer, especially if you try to get offense. And so the idea of Ha-Seung Kim intrigues me. He doesn't hit the ball incredibly hard, right? His barrel rates, his hard hit rates are usually pretty low. His homer total in 23, a full season for him, was 17. He did steal 38 bags, worth talking about. 2022, he put up 11 homers and 12 stolen bases. Last year, only 470 plate appearances because of the shoulder injury, 11 homers, 22 stolen bases. But what he does really well offensively, chase rate, one of the best in baseball. 18.6%, 98th percentile. Whiff rate, 16.1%, 92nd percentile. Strikeout rate, 16.4% is 81st percentile. Walk rate, 12.3%, 96th percentile in baseball. He has some of the best plate discipline in baseball. And you are in a unique position because the big weakness right now for Ha-Seung Kim is he had shoulder surgery. And so we don't know the strength of his arm when he comes back and what condition it will be in. Guess what? In Atlanta, you've got a shortstop. We're not incredibly happy with Orlando Arcia at the plate, but you have a guy. And you have a guy for, if you choose to, and it's a very affordable deal, 2 seasons. If Ha-Seung Kim takes a little bit of time to get his shoulder right, you've got a starter at shortstop. And if the worst case scenario is if his arm strength never comes back to the point where it goes from plus arm strength to below average arm strength, you've only got a couple more years at second base of Ozzie Albies. And guys have shown, exceptional defenders have shown they can get it done at shortstop with poor arm strength. We all watched Dansby Swanson. Dude's a great defensive shortstop. He does not have a great arm. I am fully convinced Ha-Seung Kim, the odds are his arm would still be good enough to play shortstop for you. And usually somebody in that middle infield, Ozzie or Orlando, gets hurt. They've both missed time in the last couple seasons because of injuries. Some of them are weird. Orlando had like an impacted tooth that had to get pulled, whatever. He also had a microfracture 2 years ago. But the point is, somebody's going to miss time. It is so hard to fill shortstop. And this is a guy that defensively has been amazing. And while he doesn't do, like on offense, he doesn't do the thing that you prefer the most, hitting for power. He doesn't do that well. He would immediately be the second most threatening base runner on this team. I'm a big Michael Harris guy. I think Michael Harris can go 30-30 this year. I think Ha-Seung Kim, the end of the day, would probably be a more dangerous base runner than Michael Harris. He's very good on the base paths. He's very good defensively. And that's what we've said about Orlando Arcia, right? Is if you can play really good defense and bat ninth, we kind of don't care how bad you hit. And Orlando's bet, I'm going to test you on that. I feel like the worst case scenario for signing Ha-Seung Kim is his offense slumps to slightly worse than Orlando. He was hurt a good portion of the year last year. He still hit .233 with a 700 OPS. I still think he was better offensively than Orlando Arcia was. He also has foot speed, which Orlando Arcia doesn't. Arcia is one of the slowest shortstops in the league. He's bottom quartile in speed for all baseball players, not just shortstops. Ha-Seung Kim would give you speed, would give you some certainty for the next few years when you run the possibility of losing Ozzie Albies and or losing Orlando Arcia, and you're still waiting to see if any of these young international shortstops can get to the Major League level 1 and be the guy at the Major League level 2. An ideal offseason, if you're getting everything on your Christmas list, you're getting Jack Flaherty, you're getting Jeff Hoffman or José Leclerc, you're getting Jurickson Profar, and just maybe you're getting Ha-Seung Kim. This has been Braves Today for Tuesday, December 24th. If you're listening on audio, do us a favor, leave us a 5-star review. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when we drop the next episode. It will not be tomorrow. Taking Christmas Day off. Enjoy the time with your family. We'll see you on Thursday. This has been Braves Today.